Time for the 9 headlines at 9. COVID alarm bells ring once again as cases soar in China, raising fears of new mutants. Centre now asks states to ramp up genome sequencing to track the new COVID variants. After over 70 deaths were recorded in Bihar, Chhapra hooch tragedy, and India Today investigation on the illicit liquor industry reveals how illegal makeshift distilleries continue to churn out lethal spirits. The BJP and Congress cross swords in Parliament over Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge's jibe at PM Modi. The BJP demands an apology. Kharge stands firm. Union Minister Smriti Irani lashed out at a Congress leader for his latke khatke comment. The Union Minister says the sexist comment reveals the true character of the Gandhis. FIR filed against Congress leader Ajay Rai. Cracks emerge in the Karnataka BJP ahead of elections. Ishwarappa and Ramesh Jarkhioli, two important leaders, skipped the assembly session, demand ministerial berths in the state cabinet. Chief Minister Bomai denies there's a rift within the party. Conman Sukesh Chandrasekhar drops another bombshell, declares on camera that he gave 60 crore rupees to AAP netas. AAP says the conman is acting on the BJP's behest. Protesting farmers face off with police amidst protests against a liquor factory in Punjab's Firozpur. Farmers demand a factory shutdown, alleging massive environmental impact from polluted water. And Lionel Messi's Argentinian team receives a hero's welcome in Buenos Aires after a spectacular FIFA World Cup win. The city is painted white and blue. And disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein has been guilty of rape and sexual assault in Los Angeles trial against him. This is the second time he's been found guilty of sex crimes. But the breaking news that's coming in at the moment, COVID alarm bells have been rung once again in the country, with a sudden spurt of cases being witnessed in Japan, the US, the Republic of Korea, Brazil and China. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia has called for a review meeting on the COVID situation at a time when COVID cases are actually at their lowest in the country. The centre has decided to step up COVID-19 measures and has directed states to ramp up genome sequencing to track all the new COVID variants. So clearly at the moment, the government doesn't want to take any chances ahead of the holiday season. Lots of travel expected over the next couple of weeks. And therefore, the government has said that they will now step up their COVID testing policies as well as genome sequencing to track whether there are any new variants. Remember, all of this is coming at a time when China has reported a massive spurt in cases after lifting restrictions on their zero COVID policy. So that's the big story coming in. Let me go straight to someone who can tell us more on that. Dr. N.K. Arora is Chief National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization. NTAGI, appreciate your joining us, Dr. Arora. The government has just announced that they want states to test all positive samples for genome sequencing. Is there a fear of new mutants out there, new variants of COVID that perhaps could be a cause for concern? Sir, you're on mute. Sir, you're on mute. Dr. Arora, you're on mute.
Thank you very much, Rajdeep. Thank you very much for inviting me. I would start with saying clearly that we should not panic. In fact, we are the things are in place. The community is very well protected with very effective vaccines. Plus, most of us have suffered some kind of natural infection. So this hybrid immunity has been extremely good. And as a result, Omicron wave, India kind of faced it very well. We did not have too many admissions or deaths throughout, although in March, April, we had some 400,000 or 300,000 cases a day for a few days. But now, as you very rightly said, it has come to almost the lowest since 2020. The important point and the critical issue is that genomic surveillance is the key at this time, and that has been the philosophy throughout this 22. that we should monitor. And the comforting point is that whatever subvariants are circulating anywhere in the world, they are also picked up in the country. And the Indians have kind of not suffered with severe disease or death because of any of these. Now, the question is that we need to continue with the same vigil, whether it is individuals with mild symptoms, those who are hospitalized, or even switch surveillance, so that in case any new variant comes, which can cause severe disease or a more virulent form, we should be immediately able to pick it up. And I think system is very much in place that we should be able to do it. So coming back, that there is no need to panic.
You're saying, Dr. Arora, there is no need to panic. The reason, of course, that there was some concern is we are told the health minister has now called a meeting, a review meeting on Wednesday, and states have been directed to step up genome sequencing. I know you're saying it's part of a pattern, but is there any reason for us to believe that there is a new strategy being put in place, or the manner in which genome sequencing will now take place is any different to what you've done across the year?
No, in fact, I am associated with the INSACOG genomic surveillance group, and we have continuously, because in fact, right in March, April, this decision was taken that as the variants circulating are not causing the virulence as we saw it last year, but this is the time to see that our surveillance is very tight, it is very efficient, and in fact, now there is a dashboard. You can see week to week what changes are there. An important thing is that some of the variants, for example, BA4, BA5, which caused a lot of severe disease and death in North America and Europe, they were not able to spread. They were just 5-10% maximum. At the moment, most of it is BXX, which is a recombinant virus, plus there is another virus by B275 and its subvariant. So the question I'm saying is that we are well on top of the situation. Things are being done, and there will be additional efforts. We are going to have the meeting tomorrow, and we will see. But
so there are no new variants out there, Dr. Arora? No new variants that we have to be concerned about, because lots of people are going to have holiday travel over the next couple of weeks. You're telling people it is safe to be out there. There is no real cause for alarm. Am I right?
So what is also being done, and I think that needs to be further strengthened. The point which you are trying to ask is that those who are having international travel, those who are coming in, they should be tested, and that issue needs to be strengthened. And from wherever they are coming, it doesn't matter whether they are coming from East Asia, Southeast Asia, or any other part. Anybody who is coming from outside is to be kind of sampled and see, because mutants can travel there. The virus does not see any boundaries, so it can travel from any way, and that is the one which is to be strengthened. Our current system is very good, and maybe the number of samples we will start picking may further increase.
Because, we've seen, of course, the surge in China, but we are also seeing more cases being reported in other parts of the world, from the United States to Japan. This was around the time last year, sir, when Omicron hit large parts of the world. India, as you said, was relatively insulated from from Omicron's more contagious elements. But are we seeing, therefore, a return of a potential variant like Omicron as we end the year?
It's almost like asking an astrologer. It's very difficult to say whether a new variant will emerge out of not or. I mean, if the variants can emerge anytime, but very difficult to say whether it is likely. The reason it appears in China, the kind of this wave we are seeing, is because most of the Chinese were so much contained during last 2.5 years that natural infection had not occurred. Their vaccine issues have also been raised. But in contrast, India had both very high level of natural infection and very high level of coverage. And that has really prevented us and protected us from Omicron onslaught.
Okay. Dr. Arora, you're giving, in a sense, a message of reassurance, telling people not to panic. and claiming that even the extra surveillance and the possibility of more genome sequencing does not necessarily lead anyone to have to be alarmist about the situation in India. I appreciate.
I will just add one.
Yes, please.
I will just add one sentence, and that is, in case there is anything, we will share it with everybody so that the preparedness of the country is so good that we need not be kind of afraid. We are well prepared, and if there is something new, I think the Indians will know it quickly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arora. Message of reassurance coming from you matters. Thank you so much for joining me here at the top of the news today. Now, as Dr. Arora said, the fact is China's zero COVID policy now has been exposed. With every passing day, the number of cases in China are spiraling. Crematoriums are flooding. Hospitals are overflowing as cases of COVID and deaths due to the infection surge across the country. The Chinese government may be playing down the crisis. The fact is, the reality on the ground is very different. That's what we're going to focus on tonight. China's COVID surge. Sneha Mordani reports.
Vehicles queuing to enter crematorium in Beijing, carrying bodies, hearses entering and exiting funeral homes, workers in hazmat suits carrying bodies into building for cremation. After 3 years of pursuing a flawed zero-COVID policy, which saw the Chinese leadership inflict the worst kind of torture on its citizens, imposing extremely strict restrictions and not allowing anyone to breathe, China has now reversed its policy, and these are pictures from China right now. Hospitals are filling up with patients. Crematoriums are overflowing right now. The streets are deserted. Weeks after lifting COVID restrictions, funeral homes in Beijing are flooded, struggling to meet up with calls for crematorium services even as infections surge. The country has stressed on the need to vaccinate better. It says 30% of senior citizens are not vaccinated in the country. Beijing has started to now use the nasal vaccine.
I took all the vaccination doses, the complete cycle of first, second and the booster. This feels more comfortable and it's faster. The injected vaccine might be standard with a higher level of safety and protection. But if the effects are the same, then this is definitely enough.
However, the country's policy of not allowing its population of having any exposure to the infection and developing natural immunity, also its poor vaccination rates, has cost it dear.
In the absence of population-wide immunity from natural infection, this puts a large number of individuals at risk. China's dynamic zero COVID strategy was effective in reducing deaths so far. But the flip side of that is the lack of immunity resulting from natural infection in its population.
Whether that course of treatment...
The world is keeping a close watch on the events unfolding in China.
It's not a question for us.
A study published by Nature in May 2022 predicted that in 6 months after China ditches the COVID restrictions, it will see 112 million symptomatic cases, 1.6 million deaths, and demand for intensive medical care 15.6 times greater than the national capacity. A terrible situation for its people who are already at the receiving end of the leadership's failure in handling the crisis it first created. With Bureau Inputs, Sneha Mordani in New Delhi for India Today.
So has COVID exposed China now? Has China's zero COVID policy been completely exposed? Is China guilty of fudging data on COVID? Did India handle the pandemic better? Should the world now worry about new mutants that might be out there? Some of the questions we'll raise with our guests. I'm joined by Dr. Subramaniam Swaminathan, Director Infectious Diseases at Gleneagles Global Health City, and Dr. Giridhar Babu, Professor and Head Life Course Epidemiology at the Public Health Foundation of India. Gentlemen, I'll come to you in a moment because with I spoke a little earlier to my guests from the United States. I spoke to Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding. He's epidemiologist and health economist in Washington, D.C., and he's been raising alarm bells for a while on Twitter about China. Dr. Ding, you've tweeted, hospitals completely overwhelmed in China ever since restrictions dropped. Epidemiologists estimate more than 60% of China, 10% of the Earth's population likely to be infected over the 90 days. Deaths likely in millions, plural. This is just the start. Your tweet has gone viral. Are you being alarmist once again? Or do you think this is a new reality the world must contend with, especially China?
Well, thanks for having me. I want to point out that, when the Delta wave swept through India and when many of the Omicron previous waves swept through Europe and America, most of the people were infected, right? And so affecting 60% of a population, if you don't have restrictions, is very possible. And we've seen it time and time again. And if we know that 800 million people are going to get infected in China, then saying there's 1 to 2 million deaths is very, very low in proportion. And we can easily see that because China does not have really, really strong vaccines. Its vaccine coverage is very poor in the elderly, especially boosters. And in this day and age, if you don't have boosters, your protection is very low. China does not have many Paxlovid drugs. And in mainland China, the per capita hospital beds and doctors and nurses is much lower than in Hong Kong and other places where once they lifted restrictions, we saw very, very high mortality rates. So there's no reason to think that the same thing won't happen in mainland China. Now, of course, the only thing that could stop that would be if the government reversed its policies and went back into much more strict rules, but I don't see that happening. So I'm worried that, and many epidemiologists are worried that this is easily, you could see millions of deaths and hundreds of millions of infections over the next 90 days.
Are you therefore suggesting that this is primarily because restrictions were lifted as China decided to abandon a zero COVID policy? Are you also suggesting maybe, as some fear, that there could be a new variant that is not just in China, but is also possibly now in other parts of the world, like the US, Japan, South Korea, which are witnessing again a rise in COVID cases?
Yeah, it's a combination. So first of all, variants are emerging at a very rapid pace. Previously we had a new variant every 6 months and then every 3 months. Now we have new variants almost every month. And now we have variants on top of new variants. And China does have variants such as BF7, which is a bit evasive, and also a little bit more severe. Has BQ variants, BQ1s. But the thing is, when you have a virus go through 800 million people, there's bound to be newer and newer variants. So that's a real concern because each of the variants are becoming more, they're being trained to be more vaccine and previous infection evasive. And that's inherently the problem. And of course, restrictions. China's lifted some restrictions, but not like Western lifting of restrictions. I would say China has lifted about halfway between where it was before and where it is in the West. But it's still, given how evasive and infectious Omicron subvariants are, I think that's the double whammy. Lifting restrictions plus poor past immunity, poor vaccination, and new variants. This just bodes very poorly for China.
You've said doubling time in China may not be days but hours now. Quoting some epidemiologists. In India, interestingly, numbers at the moment are at their lowest. Again, I ask you, are you being alarmist when you suggest that China now could simply go out of control?
Well, yeah, the doubling in hours, that was someone else who said it. I think it's possible within certain cities, if you don't have restrictions, that is possible, but we can't know for sure because I said in my tweet that it's hard to pinpoint that because it's hard to do testing that fast. But I also want to point out, Delta variant, when it hit India, if you remember, and I'm sure you do, in April, May, June of 2021, people who were saying COVID will hit India were not being alarmist. You know, a lot of people who were saying that India will be hit hard, or were saying, "Oh, India was a herd immunity." But we saw what happened in April, May, June of last year. So we should not be arrogant in that sense, because you know, yes, India has already had an infection wave, but China still has not. Mainland China, if you look at the per capita case rates, are very, very low. And in certain ways, that's good, but in certain ways, it also makes them vulnerable. So if you don't think that what happened in India could happen again in China, then obviously you can disagree. But we know what happened in India, and I worry for the people of China right now.
So are you saying, therefore, net, this is a problem specific to China at the moment? The rest of the world need not worry at the moment about another surge or another variant out there that could be potentially infectious and fatal?
I wouldn't say need not worry too much. I would say that they won't be hit as hard as China is, because China is almost virgin territory for not having previously been infected, right? India's already had a burn through, because India's burn through, as you know, was very cataclysmic last year. Now, the issue is these variants, like they cause huge numbers of reinfections. And the question is, of course, how bad will it get? Like in the US, we're already seeing hospitalizations rising, deaths rising again, as well as in Europe, hospitalizations and deaths are rising again. Not as bad as before, but they're still rising, especially since we've only started winter. Actually, we haven't even officially started winter yet. So we are still, I think, not in the clear in any ways. It's just China will have a really, really bad burn through that many Western countries saw in spring of 2020. And India saw it spring of 2021.
Okay, let me leave it there, Dr. Ding. What you're saying at the moment is what happened to India last year is what could be happening at the moment in China at the moment. What happened with Delta to India could be happening at the moment with China. Appreciate your joining us. I spoke to him earlier, remember. Let's therefore widen this to the Indian connection. And I want to bring in Dr. Subramanian Swaminathan and Dr. Giridhar Babu. To you, Dr. Giridhar Babu, first, as an epidemiologist, is there any concern that you have that we are seeing a surge in cases in some parts of the world, even though in India, as I repeated earlier, cases are at their lowest? Is there any cause for concern at all? Could we be at half time, to use a football analogy, in the world of COVID?
Yeah, more than the football, I would rather use the cricket terminology. The preparation has been, in terms of the pitch, has been inadequate in China. Their fielding and even in terms, which is the hospitals, has not that been great, because they did not step up the response during the zero COVID strategy. The vaccination rates have been not really great, especially among the elderly. So China is a different example. They did too little, and now they're doing too late in terms of opening up. As a result, it will burn, the infection will spread faster, and therefore what we should be focusing is on, as Dr. Arora rightly pointed earlier on in your discussion, what kind of surveillance strategy we have. Can you pick up if there are new variants? Why I say new variants? As of now, there are no new variants, but whenever you allow a virus to flourish, to circulate faster and circulate among more people, there are more chances for the variations to occur. And it might be not as fast as influenza virus, but it is only a matter of when. It's not a question
No, so
of...
are you linking, you're saying treat China as an exception, but the rise in cases in some parts of the United States, Japan, other countries in the world, do you see it as a new variant out there, or is it that some countries have let their guard down? How do you see it?
At this time of the year, there concurrently, there are outbreaks happening due to COVID-19. It's also a respiratory syncytial virus, RSV, and there's also flu epidemic. So we need to distinguish between what actually is the reason for rise in number of cases in different regions of the world. But yes, wherever the immunity is falling down, wherever the susceptible pools are being created, we will have outbreaks, because this virus is not going to disappear just like that. Okay. The point for us is in terms of booster coverage, Rajdeep. Now, we have not done really well in terms of booster coverage. So there are only two aspects that we need to do: expand the booster coverage to all the elderly and vulnerable, we already have hybrid immunity, but then we can't take that as a guarantee against any future variants.
Right.
And lastly, as done already, the surveillance strengthening is key. Both outbreak detection and genomic sequencing concurrently are going to be the mirror of where the outbreak will be.
Dr. Swaminathan, would I be right in saying we are in a better place than most parts of the world today as we end 2022, a year that started with Omicron, which fortunately was not fatal in most instances. It was contagious to some extent, but not fatal. Are we in a better place today than most parts of the world?
Probably, but with the caveat that what we don't know is what is really scary. At this point, at least, there are a lot of positives to take away, and a couple of concerns that we have, and maybe areas where we could strengthen and improve. But overall, I would say we are in a much better position than we ever were with regards to COVID pandemic. That is without any doubt.
You're saying we are in a better, we seem to be in a better place. One concern, and I've just got it on WhatsApp from a friend who says, look, there is a concern over long COVID, for example, in India.
Correct.
There is also concern that people who've had the booster, some people have also experienced COVID-like symptoms. Should all of this be of cause of concern? Do we know enough about long COVID? Do we know enough that boosters on their own are enough to ensure that you will not get COVID symptoms?
No, absolutely. See, there are lots of areas within COVID itself which we do not know enough about. For example, all the syndromes that get triggered after COVID, we have seen for all the way from the weird to the wonderful and not so wonderful for the patient, I suppose, being triggered after COVID and lasting for months at this point of time, because we don't know how long it will last in the future. There's a lot of data coming out from the West, but unfortunately, the quality of data and the amount of data that's coming from India is fairly sparse, and therefore, people have lost interest in COVID, I suppose. So I think we need to spend a little more time in that and try and understand what the pattern of long COVID is in our country and how best to tackle it, because it may be very similar to what it is in the Western world, or it may be different. We won't know till we start capturing data.
You're saying that we won't know till we capture data, Dr. Swaminathan, but, should we, in a way, pat ourselves on the back, look at where China is today at the end of 2022, that they are struggling with their zero COVID policy, that at a time when we were very critical of our government in the summer of last year, today can the Indian government claim, look, we've done much better than China?
No, I think both polar views are wrong. China moved from one pole to another. I mean, don't say that I call them bipolar. I didn't say anything like that. But these kind of vacillations are actually very, very dangerous. Let's not take any positions that way. I will give you one example of what we could do differently. We are currently doing genome sequencing for positive tests. The problem is people have stopped doing tests. Somebody comes in with a mild respiratory illness. It's not a question of how mild it is for that person. It could be deadly for the next person. So we need to be picking up more. A better way would be to look at wastewater surveillance and doing it regularly to see if there's a spike. Data from many parts of the world have clearly shown that there is a spike in the wastewater before there's a clinical spike. So we should be doing things like that, at least in big centers, to try and see what's happening with regards to numbers. Because we are patting ourselves on the back without actually having real numbers. And like was pointed out, because there is so many other things like influenza and RSV going around, we don't know which respiratory infection is currently the alpha at this point of time. And unless we test, it's difficult. The problem with individual testing is that it's very expensive, cumbersome, and people don't want to hear the word COVID. And wastewater is probably the best alternative that we have. And unfortunately, I have not, although INSACOG has been looking at this, is what I've been told, I have not seen a very good quality data in the public domain with regards to wastewater surveillance and COVID. I'd love to see that. I think that would be a great surrogate marker. That's an example of something we could do differently. Now, as far as China is concerned, we know they have shown that the nasal vaccine is probably likely to be a game changer. They should be going hammer and tongs at it. And I think even our government should be moving very, very fast to look at this nasal vaccine, because it produces much higher levels of neutralizing antibodies and much better respiratory immunity. And we should be moving as fast as possible in that area. I mean, I think Feigl-Ding also mentioned about that. And I think that's something that we are not paying enough attention to. So, like I said, there are some areas where we could probably do better, but overall, I still think we are better than passing.
So therefore, in conclusion, Dr. Giridhar Babu, hospitalizations at an all-time low in India at a time when we are seeing this COVID surge in neighboring China. Dr. Arora at the start of the program said, don't panic, don't be alarmist. Holiday season is upon us. I guess there'll be even more travel in the next few weeks. Overall, would you agree with that? That we can now, in a way, return, if I may call it, to completely normal life as we enter a new year?
Yeah, so there are a couple of aspects there. We should not panic. I definitely agree with that. But what we need to be careful is the booster coverage needs to expand. The study from CMC Vellore showed that both Covivax and Covishield as a booster does better, irrespective of which the primary doses are. I think that's the way forward for expanding the booster coverage. That's an essential aspect, and stepping up surveillance. Though we should not panic, we should be proactive. India did really well as a response to the rise in cases in Delta. Now probably China is doing it. Every country is responding after initial setbacks. So we should not have another major wave like the second wave anywhere in the world. For that, we need to step up booster coverage.
Okay, so booster coverage in particular is what you're suggesting. Perhaps testing being much more rigorous is what Dr. Swaminathan also is suggesting. But I appreciate both of you joining us at a time when, as I said, the government of India has called a review meeting to look at existing COVID measures amidst the surge in cases in some parts of the world. Thank you very much for joining us. The return of COVID, will it come back? And hopefully, will it ensure this time that it's under control? We'll wait and see. Let's turn from there to a situation that clearly is not under control. The illicit liquor industry in states like Bihar. As the death toll in the Bihar Hooch tragedy rose to over 70, raids conducted as part of an Operation Clean Drive in Patna. Police and Excise Department raiding spurious liquor factories in Danapur, Saran, Muzaffarpur to seize illicit liquor. Despite the high number of deaths, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has declined so far any compensation to the kin of the deceased, asserting action will be taken only after getting the post-mortem reports. Now, the fact is, while these raids are conducted, on the ground, the truth is the illicit liquor factories flourish in Bihar, near Chhapra in Bihar. This is what is the ground situation. Until now, these industries have been working underground. Now an India Today investigation has found how these illegal makeshift distilleries continue to operate with impunity, churning out barrels of potentially lethal spirits under the nose of enforcement. Mohammad Hizbullah of our investigation team now reports.
Toxic and fatal.
जो शराब पिएगा वो तो मरेगा ही, ये तो उदाहरण ही सामने है कि पियोगे तो मरोगे, यही तो बात है.
A prohibitionist state since 2016, Bihar suffered yet another Hooch tragedy as the year drew to a close. After Nalanda, Buxar, Banka, Madhepura and Bhagalpur, lethal spirits have taken their toll at Chhapra in Saran district now, an hour and a half drive from capital Patna. Through a serene river, swaths of barren land, weeds and bushes, we trudge down to a makeshift distillery right in the same Saran district where at least 70 people died after drinking tainted moonshine last week. Rusted oil drums, dirty pipes, jerry cans, saps of gur or jaggery left out in the open in waste bags for days to ferment, non-existent sanitary conditions. Barely 5 kilometers from the office of the district magistrate. This unlawful liquor-making unit is one of the 4 operating in broad daylight on the same stretch. Ironically, when Bihar mourns its dead from the Chhapra poison hooch. Drums filled with fermented sap and placed over a large mud and brick furnace. The liquid evaporates, vapors pass through containers of cold water to condense. A brewer explains the process.
मीठा का पास है, मीठा पानी डालेंगे तो कुछ नहीं गिरेगा। हाँ। वो मीठा का पास का भाप बन के आता है, ये एल्युमिनियम है। हाँ। ये पानी के थ्रू गिर रहा है दारू बन के। ये तो बहुत गंदा है भाई। गंदा कहाँ से? मीठा है। मीठा। खाने वाला मीठा, अच्छा मीठा है। जो बाजार में बिकता है ना, वो है। पुलिस का डर नहीं लगता? क्यों नहीं लगेगा? फिर क्या अमृत बना रहे हैं कि डर नहीं है?
A white moonshine drips out from the long rubber pipes. The spirits then are packaged in large polythene bags and handed over to local suppliers. When probed, the hooch makers claimed the intoxicant they produce is sourced naturally. A network of suppliers pick up the cheap brew from units like these at 500 rupees for 7 litres, which then are sold to end consumers near, far and wide.
इस तरह के पॉलिथीन में पैक करते हो? ये कितना लीटर है? ये 7 लीटर। कितने का? हाँ? 500। तो एक दिन में कितना बनाते हो? एक दिन में 100 लीटर। और खर्चा कितना आता है? मतलब 7 लीटर 500 का है तो समझ लीजिए कि 350 पूंजी लगा इसमें। 350 पूंजी? हाँ। तो सिर्फ 150 रुपये के लिए इतना महंगा? 150 रुपये। इसमें क्या मिलाते हो? इसमें बस गुड़ और पानी। बेचने वाला तो 500 लीटर एक दिन में बेच देता है। बेचेंगे लोकल आसपास ये बाहर जाता है? पता नहीं अभी ये कहाँ जाएगा, ये कहाँ दारू जाता है नहीं पता। अच्छा, कोई इसका एरिया नहीं है। तो यहाँ से आप लोग भेज देते हो बस बना के? बस जहाँ जाना है खुद चले जाएगा ये अपनी जगह से। दारू पहले जितना चालू था ना उतना नहीं बिकता था, अब जितना बंदी में बिक रहा है। तो कितना पूरे दिन चलता है प्लांट? पूरे दिन नहीं चलेगा, बस 1 घंटा और चलेगा, उसके बाद खत्म। 20 लीटर बनाने में आपको लग जाता है 1 घंटा। 5 घंटे में 100 लीटर बन जाता है।
If laced with chemicals like methanol and even pesticides to increase potency, illicit spirits, believed to be the main cause behind hooch deaths across the country. A total of 708 incidents of consumption of spurious liquor have caused 782 deaths in India in 2021. The series of alcohol poisonings in Bihar this year brings to the fore a rampant black market of cheap adulterated liquor. Those in the trade outsmart enforcement or carry it out in connivance.
पुलिस का डर नहीं लगता तुम लोगों को? पुलिस आते हैं, हम लोग भाग जाते हैं। जैसा आदमी आके पीता आप बात नहीं मानिएगा। पुलिस वाले भी आके पीते हैं, आप नहीं बात मानिएगा हमारा। अच्छा। हाँ, बहुत अच्छे आदमी, कोर्ट में से भी आदमी आते हैं यहाँ पे पीने के लिए।
A lethal substitution brewed and sold brazenly in a state under prohibition for 6 years. With Mohammad Hizbullah, this is India Today's special investigation team.
So is it time to abandon a prohibition policy that doesn't seem to be working on the ground? Nikhil Anand is spokesperson Bihar BJP. Abhishek Jha is JDU spokesperson. Appreciate both of you joining us. Abhishek Jha, I mean, here we have another investigation, this time in Chhapra, showing illicit liquor is thriving. You can conduct all the raids you want. Your chief minister claims that he will act against the liquor mafias. The truth is that they're flourishing. As our survey says, even policemen are drinking some of this liquor. So has the time come to review your policies?
Rajdeep, raids are continuing done and one is allowed to publish this kind of business in Bihar. We have seen strict actions has been taken against people, but there are some people who are involved in such activities. We have already mentioned it many a times that hooch tragedy is a different thing and prohibition of liquor is a different thing. Many senior BJP leaders have also told that in the states where there is no liquor prohibition, in those states also there are many deaths, in fact more than Bihar in comparison to Bihar. There are so many states, if you talk about Madhya Pradesh, if you talk about Uttar Pradesh or Gujarat or any other states, in these states there are more deaths due to hooch tragedy. So these are two different issues. We need not mix them. There is a continuous liquor prohibition in Bihar, but still there are some people, in fact from the administration side also.
So you don't see any need for a review in your prohibition policy at all. Have better regulation. Why do you need a ban? Is the question. Across the world, public health specialists over the years has said prohibition doesn't work.
Then why there is prohibition in different states? Why there is prohibition in Gujarat? Why there is prohibition in other parts of the
There have been huge strategies there as well. It doesn't work in many of these states.
I'm telling the same thing, that even if we are not banning on alcohol consumption, then also there are so many deaths because of push type. We cannot stop that. We can just try to reduce it. We can take the responsibility as the government part, as the administration part, so as to reduce such things. But we have witnessed so many instances across the nation. We cannot just blame the liquor prohibition about it. We always welcome a review. We always welcome a positive review, but
you're saying don't link prohibition. You're saying don't link prohibition to the liquor deaths. Liquor deaths, illicit liquor deaths take place across India. Let me give you NCRB figures, Nikhil Anand. UP was 137 deaths 2021, Punjab 127, Madhya Pradesh 108, Karnataka 104, 60 Jharkhand, Rajasthan 51. These were the top 6 states in 2021. Now, some of these states don't have most of these states don't have a prohibition policy. So, are we making a mistake by linking all of this to prohibition?
Rajdeep, I just want to say that is it a justification for what has happened in Bihar? Illegal and poisonous liquor has been consumed and more than 150 people have been killed. And the most surprising thing is that I want to give you a data that when Lalu Rabri rule ends during 2005, the state exchequer earned around 400 crore rupees through liquor. But by 2012, during the rule of Nitish Kumar ji, he started opening the liquor shops and he started earning 6,000 crore rupees. Now, because of liquor prohibition, Bihar is losing 20,000 crore rupees. Tourism sector has been badly hit. And now, surprising thing is that the branded business liquor has been banned and illegal.
Okay, we're having a bit of a problem with your audio. Abhishek Jha, I think the larger point that Nikhil Anand is making, that when these decisions are taken, they are taken often out of certain populist urges. Let's ban liquor. It's going to sort of, the government of Nitish Kumar may have believed that it will get votes. It will also, in a way, ensure that women in Bihar's villages feel a little bit more safe and secure. That was the ostensible reason that a number of women wanted prohibition. The truth is, though, that there needs to be a comprehensive review. You cannot have, as our sting operation shows, this large-scale underground illicit liquor mafias working and then claiming all is well.
Rajdeep, there has been so many reviews regarding that, and we have always welcomed any kind of positive review. When this policy was in the house or out of the house.
No, you don't just need review, you need better enforcement. Abhishek, you need better enforcement. People there see, people in Chhapra that we have on tape seem to believe that this is business as usual.
Rajdeep, the government and the administration is aiming at the same. If there is any kind of failure, we are not running away from our responsibilities. We are just not claiming that everything is all well. We are working on the loopholes which have been found these days. But you can see the statements of the BJP leaders from their statement. It is very clear that earlier when this policy was laid in the house or out of the house, every party was in support of this. But now and then, every now and then, they are continuously saying that we should remove this ban.
Okay, so you're saying in a way that the BJP, when it was part of Nitish Kumar's government, was fully in support of the prohibition policy. Now, because they've split, they are raising question. Nikhil Anand, final word to you.
Make a point.
Final word. Yes, please go ahead. Please go ahead. You need to fix your audio. Okay, unfortunately, we are having a problem with Nikhil Anand's line because that's why we can't get his responses to this. But the fact is, and these are the numbers that I want to leave you with, clearly illicit liquor deaths occur across the country. It's not just a problem limited to Bihar, Gujarat, prohibition states. It has happened across the country. And unless you have stronger enforcement, that's what you really need. There isn't strong enough enforcement in this country. Until you get that, there will be such tragedies that will take place across the country. Let's take a break at that point. When we return, we'll turn to our good news story. The Indian national blind cricket team has scripted history. We'll tell you how. You're watching the news today. News without the noise.
भैया जी हमला। भैया जी 10 गोलियां ले ले।
गोलियां नहीं रज्जा, गोली।
पर बाहर तो 10 लोग हैं।
10 हो या पूरी बस, अब तो बस 1 है तो डन है। इसको कोई वॉचो वॉच कराओ। जब वॉचो मिले ढेर सारे OTT ऐप्स एक ही प्लान में, तो हर कोई बोलेगा वॉचो 1 है तो डन है।
वॉचो प्लान स्टार्टिंग एट जस्ट 42 rupees per month। आज ही सब्सक्राइब करें और पाएं सिलेक्ट प्लान्स पर 1 महीना कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री।
News is about putting people first.
Just look at the queues right across.
About asking the right questions to those in power. Is money power being used to bring down elected governments? Who will be held accountable for ministerial corruption?
It takes no sides. माँ का दर्द एक दर्द कोई नहीं समझ सकता उस दर्द को.
It reveals. It heals.
Angry people came out on the streets. Is this the kind of justice system we want in this country?
News is all heart and no hatred.
बिल्किस बानो आज क्या कहना चाहेंगी आप?
हमारे साथ जो हुआ है किसी के साथ भी नहीं होना चाहिए।
Experience the news. With me Rajdeep Sardesai, only on India Today.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Welcome back. You are with the news today. Now, the build-up to the Karnataka election scheduled for early next year continues. While the Congress has been caught in its leadership war, so is the BJP. Today, Karnataka's BJP MLA and senior leader K.S. Ishwarappa, upset that he has not got back his cabinet post, has refused to attend the state assembly session. Remember, Ishwarappa was involved in a major scandal which forced him to resign from his cabinet post earlier this year. Unhappy over his non-inclusion, he has now written to the Assembly Speaker that he will not attend the session for 10 days. So, is all well with the BJP as well in Karnataka? Take a look.
Months before Assembly polls, serious discontent coming out in the Karnataka BJP. Firebrand MLA Ishwarappa targeting the Bommai government, questioning his omission from the state cabinet despite getting a clean chit in the contractor's suicide case. Ishwarappa, who stayed away from the ongoing assembly session, asserted that he's unhappy with the BJP for ignoring his rightful demand.
Very shameful for me. That is why I requested the Chief Minister before Gujarat elections. he said after Gujarat election, you may induct in the cabinet. But so far, they were not inducted.
Ishwarappa, the influential MLA from Shivamogga and a prominent leader from the backward Kuruba community, also made a point by meeting BJP MLA Ramesh Jarkiholi, who had also lost his ministership over a sleaze video.
Yesterday we met. I gone to the airport and he also came there. In this airport chamber only we met, that is all. There is no politics discussion, nothing.
Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai backed the inclusion of both leaders in his cabinet, saying he has taken up the matter with the BJP High Command.
ಅವರ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ಈಗಾಗಲೇ ನಾನು ಮೊನ್ನೆ ದಿಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾವನೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಕಾರಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮಿಕ್ಕಂತ ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ನಾನು ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಿರಂಗ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಆ ವಿಷಯ ಪ್ರಸ್ತಾಪ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಇಷ್ಟು ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ. ಮತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಸಕಾರಾತ್ಮಕ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕೆಲವು ವಿಚಾರಗಳನ್ನು ನಾನು ಈಶ್ವರಪ್ಪರ ಹತ್ರ, ರಮೇಶ್ ಹತ್ರ ಸಂಪರ್ಕದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀನಿ, ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
After the outreach by the BJP, Ishwarappa appears to have softened his stand. The opposition, however, has mocked the BJP infighting, calling it a prelude to total division and disarray in the run-up to the polls.
Bharatiya Janata Party's internal problem, them not only Ishwarappa and Ramesh Jarkiholi ji, there are other members who have seriously threatened to topple this government if they are not made ministers.
Will this open discontent queer the pitch for the BJP in its southern bastion? With Anaga Keshav, Nagarjun Dwarkanath and Sagai Raj in Bengaluru. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's turn from the world of politics to our good news today story, and it comes from the world of sport, where the Indian national blind cricket team scripted history once again as they won the T20 World Cup this weekend for the blind for the third consecutive time. The heartwarming video of the team's celebration has taken the internet by storm. Take a look at our blind cricket warriors.
The winners of the third T20 World Cup Cricket for Blind 2022, India!
This is the Indian team celebrating after winning the T20 Cricket World Cup for the visually impaired for the third consecutive time. The video of the cricketers dancing in joy has won many hearts on social media. India scored 277 runs in the allotted overs at the Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru after electing to bat. Bangladesh, chasing the huge target of 278, fell short by 120 runs. Sunil Ramesh and captain Ajay Kumar Reddy scored centuries. Ramesh was adjudged the man of the match.
We need support, especially for this World Cup. Samarthanam, they tried a lot to bring sponsors. There is no sponsors. Still Samarthanam never give up. They gave best. They provided best facilities. That's why now we are the champions. Number one position.
Reaching the final in T20 World Cup means a lot to us because India is a powerhouse in blind cricket. And we had opportunity to play against them in 3 occasions. They are supporting us all through, and I think we are grateful to them, and in near future we can give a good fight.
The tournament was organized by the Samarthanam Trust for the Blind in association with the Cricket Association for the Blind in India.
We take every tournament very serious, and from Cricket Association for the Blind in India and Samarthanam, we planned out a very rigorous practice for our Indian team.
The winners got a hero's welcome in Delhi. They were felicitated by the Union Sports Minister Anurag Thakur at his residence.
क्रिकेट में तो हैट्रिक अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा कीर्तिमान है और मुझे इतना पता है जिस टीम ने हैट्रिक लगाई है वो अगली बार चौका भी मारेगी.
In blind cricket, each team has 4 fully blind players, 3 partially blind players and 4 players with partial sight. A plastic ball fitted with the ball bearings that make noise is used in this format. Bureau Report, India Today.
And tomorrow we'll have another Indian sporting team that has reason to celebrate. More on that tomorrow. But all eyes at the moment are on the Argentinian team that returned home after winning the World Cup. Lionel Messi and his men receiving a grand hero's welcome in their home country. Thousands of fans thronging the streets of Buenos Aires to get a glimpse of the FIFA World Cup winners. Another picture that's going viral, Messi happily sleeping with the World Cup trophy right next to him. Why not? It has taken him 17 years to achieve his crowning glory. We leave you with him and pictures of Argentina celebrating. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, goodbye. Jai Hind. Namaskar.
Cardiopulmonary resuscitation or CPR is performed on an individual suffering from a heart attack. It doubles and triples the chances of survival in such a patient. You heard that right. Doubles and triples the chances of survival. Listen in from experts.
So CPR or cardiopulmonary resuscitation is a hand-on intervention which is used in patients who have become unresponsive or have developed cardiac arrest, because we are aware that if cardiac arrest is left untreated, it results in death within a few minutes. So any bystander can learn how to perform CPR and can save lives. So why it is important is that because, as I said earlier, anybody who develops cardiac arrest can die if left untreated. So before medical help arrives, anybody who is around the patient can save life of the patient at that point of time. So it's very important that ideally every person of society, every member of society should be aware of cardiopulmonary resuscitation and should aim to learn because like a good Samaritan, one can save lives if one wants. So one of the problems that happens at the time of cardiac arrest is that the breathing stops and the circulation stops. So the body tissues do not get any oxygen to survive and the glucose to survive. And this is particularly true of the brain because the brain does not get oxygen and nutrition for even few minutes. There is irreversible damage in the brain. So while other organs and other tissues may be more tolerant to this stoppage of blood supply, but brain definitely is not. So it is so important for that reason that we should perform CPR as quickly as possible till the medical help arrives.